Hey, welcome to English Digest. I'm Seb.
And I'm Elsie.
Okay, so our first sentence is, a good TV commercial should be eye-catching enough to arouse an audience's interest in less than 30 seconds.
OK, 所以我们今天要翻译的第一句中文是呢，一则好的电视广告应该要够引人注目，才能在不到30秒内就激起观众的兴趣。那时态呢，我们要使用 should 加上原形动词，表示对现在或是未来的建议或劝告。
Right, exactly, because it's giving suggestions, this sentence. It's saying, this is an important quality. If you want to make a commercial, you should do it this way. So that's a very interesting statistic, actually. I didn't know, or an interesting fact. Have you heard this before, that a good TV commercial should get someone's interest in less than 30 seconds?
Yeah, I've heard about it before. And I think there's one TV commercial about an energy drink in Taiwan called 蛮牛.
Okay.
The company always creates super interesting and eye-catching commercials.
And I think online now, especially on YouTube, commercials will have to be even better. Or we're talking about video commercials. They will have to be even quicker, because after 5 seconds, people want to skip the video, right?
Yeah,
so
we
you
always
need
push
to,
that button.
Exactly. It's only a few commercials that are so interesting that I don't hit skip. Yeah, I think that number is probably even smaller now than when this advice was originally written. Anyway, let's get past the sentence and talk a little bit about the vocabulary in the sentence.
没问题，所以我们第一个要看到就是广告到底怎么说。那电视呢，或者是其他影音类型的广告，我们会用 commercial 或者是 advertisement 两个字来表示。那这个 advertisement 有的时候我们会看到它的缩写是 ad。那两个呢都是可数名词，不过如果你看到的是 advertising 这个字的话，它指的是广告业或广告的总称，那就是一个不可数名词咯。那常见的搭配法有这个 television advertising, radio advertising, newspaper advertising, and online advertising. 那这边呢，给同学们一个 commercial 的例句。When the commercials came on, we all got up from watching TV to take a break. 当电视广告出现的时候，我们都起身休息，暂停看电视。
Right, exactly. And advertising is actually inside of another word, which I think is good to know for this exercise, and that's marketing. So marketing is a broader thing than advertising, and it's just the practice of working out the best way of selling a product and the best way of talking about that product to people. Okay, so it's not just advertising, it's also where are you going to sell it? How are you going to talk about it? What price are you going to give it? Those are all aspects of marketing. I think we can say that marketing is 行销 in Chinese.
Right.
所
以行销的这个策略是非常重要的。也就是说呢，你看广告出来，我们就起身休息，暂停看电视。那广告一定要相当引人注目，不然人家都不会去看。那引人注目的，我们用 eye-catching， 它是属于呢组成为名词后面加上去 hyphen 那一杠，再加 VING 或是 VPP 的复合形容词。那在判断应该要使用现在分词还是过去分词的时候呢，只需要将该复合形容词与修饰的名词还原成先行词跟关系子句的结构，你就可以看出来要怎么用咯。例如呢 an eye-catching commercial 代表就是 a commercial that catches people's eyes。你会发现它是主动的用法，所以我们要用的是 VING， 也就是现在分词。那另外一个例子是呢A battery-powered clock 代表的就是 a clock that is powered by batteries。你会发现它是被动，所以呢，我们要用过去分词 powered。
Exactly. So we've also got another few words that we could use for talking about getting and holding people's attention or getting people to remember something. We talked about eye-catching, so that made me think about another word, catchy, which is C-A-T-C-H-Y. Okay, catchy. And something that's catchy is memorable and easy to remember. I would even go so far as to say it's hard to forget. So we often talk about catchy music, a catchy melody, a catchy tune, catchy lyrics. Actually, in the recording studio right now, we have a poster of Ariana Grande, and she has a lot of very catchy songs, Even if you're not an Ariana Grande fan, you can probably name or hum the melody to a couple of Ariana Grande songs because they're very, very easy to remember. So they're very catchy. We could also maybe say that they are impactful. Now, impactful is an adjective that means something that leaves an impression, 很有印象. So, we're saying something that might have, if we're talking about an ad, then it might be something that has an effect on the viewer or something with a powerful message, okay? So, I don't know, Elsie, when you've been, trying out reading new books, maybe you've read a book that's had a very strong message in it or some ideas that really change the way you think about the world. We would say that those books are impactful, right?
Okay, so I can say, I've read some impactful books recently. Is that okay?
You could say that, yes. Or you could say also that you found a book very impactful or it had a very impactful message. So both of those would work. All right. We also saw the phrase arouse.
Okay, arouse 这个动词呢，它有激起、唤起的意思，所以可以放到这边来表示激起点点点的兴趣。那常见的搭配词有 arouse one's interest 或者是 arouse one's curiosity, suspicion, fear, or even anger. 好，也可以用 arouse 来说。那本句当中的 arouse an audience's interest 也可以用 catch or capture an audience's interest or attention. 好，来替换。那例句给的是呢 The music classes being advertised at my school aroused my curiosity, so I signed up. 也就是呢，我学校里面宣传的音乐课引起我的好奇，所以我去报名了。
Exactly. We often use arouse when something causes an emotional reaction. A rumor can arouse suspicion. A news report can arouse fear. An ad for a cool new product can arouse curiosity. There are other emotional response words we can use too as well. So elicit is one really good one, E-L-I-C-I-T. And that's a verb which means to draw out a kind of response or a fact from someone. So the political ad elicited a response from the president, who said he didn't agree with it. Okay, so perhaps this ad was about climate change, and it said some very negative things about climate change. Maybe that climate change was not real, it's not happening, and the president felt that it was his job to come out and say, I don't agree with this ad. This ad doesn't reflect my views. We need to work to look after the environment. That would be an example of the ad eliciting a response from him. We could also talk about something triggering a reaction. Now, when something triggers a reaction, it causes a reaction, normally a negative one. A trigger is actually like the noun trigger, the same as the noun trigger, which means the part of a gun you pull to fire the gun. So the sudden rise in gas prices triggered protests in the streets. And lastly, we could also use the phrase induce, I-N-D-U-C-E, induce, which means to persuade or lead something in a certain direction or lead someone away. So the beware of the dog sign induced passers-by to stay away. It encouraged them to stay away. All right, shall we move on to this second sentence now?
Sure.
All right, so this one is giving us a bit more detail about what makes great commercials. At the same time, it also has to be to the point in order to ensure that customers can absorb all the necessary information about the product. So to repeat there, it there is referring to great ads. So at the same time, great ads have to be to the point in order to ensure that customers can absorb all the necessary information about the product.
OK， 所以第二个句子呢，我们要翻译的中文是，同时它还必须切中要点，以确保消费者可以吸收到所有必要的商品资讯。那时态当然我们还是用现在简单式描述事实。首先呢，切中要点可以怎么说呢？我们可以用片语 to the point， 表示切题的、贴切主题的。那这里呢，用来表示广告内容切中产品的要点，尤其多数广告的时间都不长，需要在有限的时间内以简短而且容易明了的方式把讯息传达给观众。因此呢，我们可以用形容词 concise 简洁的、扼要的来代替。So for example, I think your presentation was to the point and told us exactly what we needed to know. 我觉得你的报告很切中要点，它准确地告诉我们需要知道的事情。
Exactly. So we've got this word concise as well. We talked about being to the point. And so concise means short and suitable for a purpose, right? So normally we use concise to talk about writing or speech. And when your writing is concise, you don't use extra unnecessary words. It means that you're being very to the point. Here's how to use it in the example you just gave, Elsie. I think your presentation was concise and told us exactly what we needed to know. Okay, so actually the word concise versus the word to the point is useful because if you think about saying to the point, there's a lot of words in there. You know, I thought that this speech was to the point. It's difficult to say all of those in very quickly, and it can make the sentence quite long. If you say, I think that speech is concise, then you're only using one word instead of three. So concise actually describes what the word is. Which is very interesting. Anyway, we've also, I think another word we could use as well, or a similar word that's good to know, is brevity. Now, brevity is a noun that means brief or shortness, okay? So something that is very brief or short, or the quality of being brief or short. So an example for brevity would be advertisers appreciate brevity because it means they can reach more consumers for less money. Right, of course, it's not just because of they want their ads to be eye-catching, it's also because the longer the ad is, the more expensive it is to put on TV or to put on YouTube. So they appreciate brevity. They like things to be short, is what we're saying there. All right, we also had this word ensure, didn't we?
Right, ensure, 我们可以用来表示确保的意思。那除了这个字之外呢 ，make sure 或是 guarantee 也都有保证、确定的意思哦。那在用法上呢，三者后面都可以直接加上 that 所引导的 now clause， 也就是名词子句，作为它的受词。所以同学们可以看一个例句哦 ，Joan installed antivirus software on her computer to ensure that it wouldn't get infected. 然后呢 that 也可以做省略。那这一句在说的是Joan 在她的电脑上面安装了防毒软体，以确保她不会中毒。
Exactly. Right, so in the translation sentence, we're basically talking about making the ads easy for the customer to understand. A nice way of saying this would be facilitate the customer's understanding. Right, so facilitate means to make something easier or easy. Actually, the first part of that word, facile, or F-A-S-C-I-L, comes from Latin, and you'll notice in lots of European languages, the beginning of that word, facile, actually means easy in lots of different languages. So it's making easy, basically. So when we facilitate something, we make it easier or we make it easy. So, for example, this organization holds company trips to facilitate team building. Okay, so here we're facilitating team building. We're making it easier for team building to happen. We're making it easier for people to make friends. We're making it easier for people to work together. That's what facilitating team building is.
也就是促使某事的发生。那再来呢，我们还有吸收，要表示哦，在这边有接收到讯息之后，得知、理解某事情，所以除了动词 absorb 之外呢，我们可以使用 understand, comprehend 或者是动词片语 take in， 也就是理解、领会来替换。For example, Bill absorbs information best by hearing it, so he likes to listen to podcasts. 代表 Bill 他透过收听资讯最能有效的吸收，所以他喜欢听
Exactly. All right, let's move on to let's take a quick break and then let's move on to our second sentence. So, Elsie, would you consider yourself an athletic person? You know, do you like to do sports?
I think I'm an athletic person. I like to go to the gym, and I even got my license for training.
Oh, so you're a physical trainer?
You can say that.
I can definitely tell that. You definitely keep yourself in very good shape.
Yeah, I'm trying to. And I also like to, for example, play badminton, play dodgeball, play basketball.
Okay, so you like a lot of ball sports.
Right, what about you?
I think I'm a very active person when I compare myself to, my friends and stuff. But I'm no athlete. So an athlete is somebody who is a professional sports person. There's a lot more to being an athlete than just being good at sports, isn't there? So, for example, we could talk about the diet. If you're going to be a professional sports person, you don't just need to do exercise 5 times a week. You also have to eat in a very specific way, a specific way that fits the sport that you're doing. So it's very specialized.
You need to watch what you eat every day.
Exactly. You need to watch what you eat. You need to control your diet. Anyway, this sentence, or these 2 sentences we're going to translate now, are all about athletes and the things that they have to do to be great. So the sentence begins by expressing a little bit of doubt. It says, "It seems meaningless that athletes spend such a long time practicing the same basic moves, but this is actually the key to being an outstanding player."
这句话的中文是呢，运动员花费如此长的时间来练习相同的基本动作，看似没有意义，但这其实是成为一流选手的关键。Because practice makes perfect, right? 那这边的时态呢，我们要使用的是简单式来描述事实。首先呢，看似我们该怎么样去表示呢？我们可以用 seem 或是 appear。那它们呢，常见的相关句型有2种。第一个就是本句当中的 it seems。或是 it appears 后面加上 that 再加上主词以及动词。另外一个则是主词加上 seem 或是 appear 后面有3种选择，一个是 to be 再加上名词，一个是 to be 加上形容词，另外一个是 to 加上原形动词。So for example, it appears that my plans for the party have worked out perfectly. 代表我的派对计划看来非常成功。这句话也可以说 My plans for the party appear to have worked out perfectly.
Right, they seem to have gone very well. Those are great constructions for talking about how things might look or might be. We can also achieve similar things by using phrases. I've got a couple here that you guys might want to note down. On the surface is the first one, and on the surface means from the outside, or that something appears a certain way. So on the surface, your plan looks great. Let's do some more research to see if it's feasible. Okay, so when I say on the surface your plan looks great, you might have just told me your basic idea, or I might have read something very quickly. I don't know a lot of information, but the initial impression I have is that it's very good. Another phrase I could use in the same situation is at first glance. So that also is very similar. A glance is a very quick look, and so at first glance means my first impression is. So we could say at first glance it's meaningless, or at first glance it seems meaningless that athletes spend such a long time practicing the same basic moves. So if you don't know much about sport, you might think that is what I'm saying there. All right, should we move on to the next vocab point?
下一个呢，我们要看到的是怎么样表示没有意义的。好，我们用的是 meaningless 这个形容词。那当你在字尾看到 less 的时候呢，表示没有点点点的，所以没有意义的，我们就用意义这个名词 meaning 加上 less 就可以组成这个形容词 meaningless。那常见的例子还有 harmless 无害的， careless 粗心的， speechless 无言的。那在本句当中啊，我们的 meaningless 也可以用 pointless 来代换。So for example, Charlie considers it meaningless to try and guess what the far future will be like. Charlie 认为呢，试图猜想遥远的未来是什么样子，很没有意义。
Right, of course. We could also say Charlie considers it pointless as well. And pointless brings us to a great phrase, what's the point? So what's the point is a phrase we can use when we don't think that there's any use in doing something. So, what's the point in me explaining this to you again? Why should I bother explaining this to you again? If you're not listening, for example, what's the point? We could also use a couple of fancier words as well. One of them is gratuitous, okay? Gratuitous, gratuitous. Now, gratuitous means too much and not needed, or not asked for. When something is gratuitous, it's given but not wanted. So, for example, this movie is full of gratuitous violence that doesn't add anything to the story. Okay, so we also have an interesting grammar structure, don't we, in this sentence? The key to...
我们再来呢，要表示说啊，这其实是成为一流选手的关键，点点点的关键。常见的用法就是 the key to 后面加上 VING 或者是一个 now 名词。需要特别注意的是啊，这个片语当中 to 是个介系词哦，所以就如我刚刚所说的，你后面要加上动名词或者是名词才可以哦。So for example, determination and a positive attitude are the keys to succeeding at any pursuit. 代表决心跟正向的态度是成功追求任何事物的关键。
Right, we could also use essential here as well. So determination and a positive attitude are essential to succeeding at any point. Or we could also say crucial. Determination and a positive attitude are crucial to succeeding at any pursuit. So both of these words basically mean very, very important. You can't not have them. You must have them for something to work. So determination is obviously essential for somebody to be a good sports player, isn't it? Okay, so there's another really good word. One of my favorite words is cornerstone. And when we describe something as a cornerstone, we mean it is essential or very, very important as well. Okay? So we've also got this word outstanding, haven't we?
Outstanding 代表的是一流的。好，那可以用什么来代换它呢？比如说 excellent, brilliant, remarkable, exceptional, superb, phenomenal。还有像是 top class 他们都有优秀的、杰出的意思，都是可以替换的。For example, Denise is truly an outstanding speaker. She could convince anyone to believe in her cause. 代表 Denise 她是一位货真价实的杰出讲者，她能够说服任何人相信她的目标。
Right, let's move on to the second sentence of the translation now. So we talked about the appearance of it being meaningless, but the second one tells us a little bit about why we need to practice. It says, it says, only when they practice consistently every day can they take their performance to the next level. Right.
唯有当他们每天持续不断的练习，才能够让自己的表现更上一层楼。那这边的时态呢，一样我们要使用现在简单式，因为呢，我们是在描述一个事实。那唯有当点点点的时候，我们可以怎么样去使用它呢？ Only 可以置于呢，以这个 when, after 或是 before 为首的副词子句之前，那后方的主要子句呢是需要倒装的哦。所以常见的句型是only 加上副词子句之后，你可以加上 be 动词，再加上主词，或者是你加上助动词，再加上主词以及动词。所以呢，给同学们一个例句咯。Only when they become parents themselves do many people realize how difficult parenting is. 唯有当许多人为人父母的时候，他们才能够理解养育小孩有多么样的困难。
Only when is a great construction for emphasizing the importance of something. Another great one you can use is without. They can't. For example, without practicing consistently every day, they can't take their performance to the next level. This means the same thing as the original sentence. It's just a double negative. We're saying that if the sports people don't practice, then they won't get better. Okay, so we've also got the word consistently, don't we?
Consistently 这个副词呢，表示持续不断地，那也可以表示一贯地，或者是始终如一的。那除了这个副词之外呢，动词 persevere 它也有坚持不懈的意思，所以我们可以说 practice consistently every day， 也可以写 persevere with their practice， 或者是 practice day in,day out， 也就是日复一日的练习。So, for example, Ken consistently gets into arguments with others, so he rarely gets invited to events anymore. 代表他一直跟人家起争执，所以他鲜少再受邀参加活动。
Exactly. So yes, consistently means to be constant, doing something over and over without fail, okay? So, if you consistently practice the piano, then you do it every day, or you do it every week, or however often you do it, but you do it always the same amount. You don't give up. You don't, get bored of doing it and stop practicing. So consistency or perseverance, you talked about persevering as well. Perseverance are very important. They're key to being a great sports person. They're also key to improving your ability, to taking your ability to the next level, aren't they, Elsie?
没错，所以呢，片语 take something to the next level可以更生动的来表达提升某事物的标准或是等级，所以呢，我们可以说 to take this relationship to the next level, we need to talk about future plans. 代表为了提升这段感情到下一个阶段，我们得谈谈未来的规划。Okay.
All right. Let's take a quick break and then we will review our sentences from today's translation exercise. A good TV commercial should be eye-catching enough to arouse an audience's interest in less than 30 seconds. At the same time, it also has to be to the point in order to ensure that customers can absorb all the necessary information about the product. It seems meaningless that athletes spend such a long time practicing the same basic moves, but this is actually the key to being an outstanding player. Only when they practice consistently every day can they take their performance to the next level. All right, well, that is all the time we have for today's episode. We hope that has helped with your translation. And of course, we will be back next month with more exercises for you to practice. But until then, I'm Seb.
I'm Elsie.
And we'll see you now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.